Alright, Tabata, play it straight with me, bruh. Both you and Horikoshi have some obsession with drawing hands. As an artist myself, I understand. Once you learn how to draw them, you always want to draw them. This is getting a little creepy, my boy. Maybe you should take a more hands-off approach. A big thank you to our Friday patrons, Sinus Lancelot, Praise the Sun, Strawbones, and Aaron. Now, before we have into this breakdown / review of chapter 333 of Black Clover, please do me a favor, leave your own notes on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Now, let's get into it with last week's poll. So, last week, I tried to go away from the more serious side of the chapter, which is obviously Lucius dropping and being like, GG's, my boy, you got to get up out of here. I wanted to focus on the ever-present love thing. Is it a triangle? Really? Like, for the longest, Asta was not interested in either of them. It was like a two-sided love triangle that both converged at the same top point. And I essentially asked you, who did you guys want to see get together with Asta more? Noelle or Mimosa? And notably, well, I'll admit the romance of Black Clover is like my least. It's not like I don't like it. It's just like my least cared about aspect of the entire series. I'm something of a Noelle man myself, so I'm not shocked that she took 72% of the vote, overwhelmingly dominating the 28% of Mimosa. Notably, I definitely see a lot of the points that were made in the comments about Mimosa, and I definitely get why that would actually probably be a much more effective pairing than Noelle and Asta, especially considering their genuine interactions with each other, which we see a lot more of the times tend to lean more positively towards Mimosa than Noelle. But, you know, sometimes just like my tsunderes getting together with my main characters. What can I say? However, thank you so much for participating in that poll. Please make sure you get on tomorrow's poll, dropping at whenever it drops. I'm kidding, 12 p.m. to make sure you get your vote in for next week. Now, let's hop into chapter 333. What's up, guys? I'm glad to here, and here we are for chapter 333 of Black Clover, which is known as The World's Savior and Its Flaw. He really just summarized the whole chapter in the title. Like, I mean, I wouldn't call Lucius a savior, more like an annihilator. But enough of that. Let's hop right into the chapter itself. So we open up, and we do get to see a flashback, if you will. And we are essentially learning about the past of Lucius, and technically the whole Zergatis family, but mainly Lucius. And we see that he, from RIP, had just the greatest, most top tier, most amazing and legendary potential to be a host in his entire family, the history of his family. And he was just born, like he round started 2 souls in his body. Like, that's just it. He was born that way. And I think the wording of souls is very important here. Because it doesn't say personalities, it doesn't say identities, it doesn't say any of that. It says soul. And we know, like, that is a much deeper classification. And usually, that's not meant to happen. Like, look at everyone else. Even the elves, when they reincarnate, look at Patry, for example. William was kind of vibing for a majority of his early life. Until bada bing, bada boom, Patry just spawned. Like, spawned in. Because of the nature of the spell that he cast. However, if we're to take Lucius at face value here, there was no spell cast. He was just born different, like straight up born with 2 souls, which is very interesting. I wonder if there really is like some predestination stuff going on here, if it was literally just by chance. Because, you know, with what Lucius goes on to say later in the chapter, it seems like there's a whole bunch of predestination stuff going on in Black Clover, with one flaw, obviously. But at the same time, who knows? Maybe this really was just like something that did happen and it wasn't necessarily meant to. And when it did, it had lasting ramifications. And the interesting thing is that Lucius at first seems to be thinking in a dual natured sense. He says we a lot. He's like, well, first he says, I gave it a lot of thought, which implies this is Lucius thinking. But then he says, who were we? What were we meant to accomplish? And that raises a question whether he's talking about him and Julius or him and his siblings with Julius. And notably, I do think he's mainly referring to himself, mainly because Lucius seems to be pretty self-centered. Like, I don't think he genuinely cares for anyone else but himself, and he claims to care about humanity later on, but like, with what he plans to do, I ain't so sure about that. However, we do get to see that despite him having two souls, there being two literal beings sharing one body, they only managed to bond to one demon, which I find strange. I don't know, I'm not sure if it would make sense for multiple demons to form contracts with, like, a dual-souled human, but the fact that they only bonded with Asta, Rothy, is the question for me, because I'm like, you couldn't get anyone else? Like, the other ones should still be out there. They should still be viable and valid. Like, and if you have a 2-for-1 deal, why not a 2-for-1 deal? But it could hypothetically be implied here that it was just Lucius's idea to get bound. But he, once again, typically, I'm assuming just based on the wording of the translation, that whenever it says I, it's Lucius talking. And whenever it says we, that means it has to be a mutual decision, or at least something that was in consideration with the both of them. So it seems like Julius did actively choose to bond with Rothy. Am I going to call him Rothy? I'm going to call him Rothy. But it seems like Lucius did actively choose to bond with Rothy alongside Julius. And that may explain the explicit time powers that Julius has. But the most interesting thing is that they only did this to kind of figure out an answer. And see, I wish the series I love to reference had an anime, so I wouldn't feel like I was spoiling the manga. But there's another manga that I know a lot about that also has this idea of dual souls predestined to do something, and they do things that allow them to try and figure out what they were meant to do. And it seems like the biggest flaw with what Lucius did here was by bonding with Rothy, he sort of gave himself like predestination syndrome. He had no free will. He just, as he literally tells Julius, hey, this has all been written, dog. Trust. Kingdom Hearts 3 is up. Like, straight up, the Book of Prophecies. It really feels like that all over again. By bonding with Rothy, a being who has absolute control over time, he sort of ended up just railroading himself into not finding out who he was or who he was meant to be. And you can even, and the ironic thing is, when I think about it, you could even see that all the way back with Julius himself. Mainly because in his fight with Patrick, he's like, oh yeah, the Wizard King is just something I am meant to be. Like, that I am. Julius is the Wizard King as much as the Wizard King is Julius. This is just the path I was meant to walk. Which also means that Julius, despite going against Lucius in certain ways, still did believe to a degree, and probably very much so had access to that predestination. Except I'm assuming his was more limited than Lucius, mainly because he seemed caught off guard by Lucius's reactivation? Resurrection? Whatever you would call it. However, we see that apparently in their body, these two can communicate directly with each other, which was kind of maybe implied by when, that's the thing, it really wasn't. Because Lucius in chapter 331 kind of just like popped out. He didn't really do anything. He was just realized, like Julius just said, it's me, and then he tried to run out and yell out to Scalesman. I'm sorry, I forget his name. But he tried to yell to Scalesman, and he couldn't do anything. Meaning that this almost seemed like an automatic, like, body hijack. But we see that Lucius is capable of having discussions. And he says, I've seen it, Julius. The future. True peace for the world. Lucius actually has Julius give pause, and he's like, Lucius, that isn't... And notably, what's interesting here is that Lucius does seem to be, despite it's so interesting, right? Because assumingly Lucius was suppressed for years upon years upon years upon end. Because Julius is not a young dude. Like, what I think he's meant to be older than Yami. Hold on, let me look up how old Julius is. So chronologically, he's meant to be 42, and we see in this flashback where Lucius, supposedly just going by the black hair, is sitting after his bonding ritual. And I'm not sure, like, was Lucius suppressed of his own free will for around 20 years that allowed Julius to go off, have his own adventure, become Wizard King of an entirely unrelated kingdom? Or was Julius doing something here? Because it seems like Lucius is the more dominant one, because he's like, yes, I foresaw that you try to stop me as well. It's a shame. No one's ever been closer to me than you, and yet you don't understand. So, interestingly enough, it seems like Julius was working against Lucius, but apparently not enough, I guess, because he didn't remember when he was going to spawn in, when he was going to show up. I don't know. It's a very... I'm going to need more context of what Lucius sees and what he means here. Like, I foresaw that you tried to stop me as well. But how? Like, you two share the same body. Well, was he just going to, like, well, Asta, do me a favor. Stab me with your anti-magic sword. Right in the heart. Like, I think it's the only way you could really stop him, because it's not like, unless you could... Who has soul magic? Does anyone have soul magic? Someone has to have soul magic, right? That one dude could resurrect people. So, like, hypothetically, there were ways. I wonder if you could separate the two, or are they, like, interlinked? Could you separate Julius and Lucius? Because I don't know. Because so many questions. Let's keep moving. It's only on the first 2 pages. But we do get to see. And I love this shot to the point where I had to, like, fusion dance them. But we see that, once again, despite them sharing the same body, despite them being twin souls, Julius has no real idea that Lucius has a plan and what he's going to do. He even straight up asked, like, yo, run me the memo, bro. Give me the Carfax. I have no idea what you're trying to do. And Lucius just has a very haunting yet calming smile on his face. And I love how he's so, like, Julius, the character who seemed to have a contingency, a backup plan, magic, nonsense, whatever, for everything, really, is truly in the dark here. He's truly caught off guard by the only person who ever could catch him off guard, himself. I know Lucius and Julius are 2 independent souls, but still himself. And I think that's very neat. And I love how their images mirror each other completely, light and dark, yin and yang, so on and so forth. Any other metaphor, sun and moon, you want to throw it in there, go crazy, go wild. But we see that the person to touch the other's head, Lucius touches Julius's forehead, and that seems to shut him up or lock him away. Whatever this, because I'm not sure how much of this is just a metaphorical or physical. Like, is that what Lucius did to absolutely, like, annihilate Julius? Because notably, he did this Damancio. That's what he was. Scales guy. That's what Lucius did to Scales guy. He touched him, and Damancio instantly, like, perished. And he touched him on the forehead. So did he do that to himself inside his own body, and that locked away, or according to what he says here, got rid of Julius's soul, or not? I don't know. It's very interesting that that specific imagery is used again, especially considering Lucius should know that, well, not, I mean, I guess time still does affect Julius, considering he has to steal. Does Lucius have to steal time? I'm wondering. There's so many questions brought up here. But overall, this is a really, really, really solid intro to the chapter, and I like all the questions it raises, like the background it gives, and I like the hype it builds for Lucius as a antagonist, based on the protagonistic nature, if not shady nature, of Julius so far. And we do get to see, we cut back to the modern day, and once again, Lucius is just mad drippy, dog. Like, that coat is fire. The white tufts on top with the black swagger. Come on now, you tell me that fit ain't fire. But we do get to see that everyone present essentially recognizes Julius. Essentially, they look at Lucius and they're like, wait a minute, something's on there. Is that the Wizard King? But Asta, I love how it's Asta who notices it first, right? Obviously, Julius didn't have black hair, for one, and 2, his mark was on the other side of his face, but they aren't going to notice that. But I love how Asta, what he determines is that, wait a minute, no, you're not him. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. Who are you? And the thing is, you get to see that Asta recognizes it first on a basic instinctual level, likely an aesthetic level at first, but then just the feeling of, well, no, the activation of the time spell that Lucius instantly uses freezes everything. Like, he doesn't answer a single question. He doesn't say a word, which is interesting. He can use his Grimoire completely non-verbally, which I think does make sense. Characters use their Grimoire non-verbally too, but it's such a flex. He doesn't even move like to activate anything. He just smiles, and suddenly there's this like gigantic time spell everywhere, and you see that it stops everything. Everything is frozen, which is interesting. I don't know. So I guess the planet's still moving, but birds freeze in the air. Noelle Mimosa freeze. Sister Lily freezes. Everyone is locked in place, but Lucius walks up to Asta, and notably, once again, there's got to be something about that forehead touch, bro, because Lucius reaches out to tap Asta's forehead too. But, which is, I'm not sure if this counts, because like Asta doesn't look like he even falls under the filter. So this could either A, be inaccessible Asta, or B, oh, he's so deeply infused with anti-magic that just no magic can work on him now, which is crazy. Because we see that even before he activates anything, as Lucius goes out to touch his forehead and probably one-shot him, Asta flares with anti-magic. And notably, that's interesting. He flares with anti-magic, but Lieb is still out. I mean, I guess Lieb doesn't have to be in him, right? Because I don't think it's DU or anything like that. But he goes into Black Asta mode, and he just immediately flares and blows away everything around him. But the thing is, I'm not sure if he just blows back Lucius, because Lucius notably doesn't even touch the anti-magic. Like, he's like, whoa, wait a minute, and he flashes away. Like, he doesn't even want to interact with it. And once again, the engagement, I'm wondering how active Lucius was, because Julius did hold Asta's anti-magic sword. If you remember way back when, like pre-time skip back in the early arcs, Julius interacted with Asta's blade and felt anti-magic. He felt his magic being drained away by the sword. But then Julius distinctly says, oh, so this is anti-magic. And interestingly enough, right, there's that big theory that goes, well, not goes around, it's been around now. There's this big theory that Lucius was the one orchestrating the entire battle against Lucci. And thusly, it makes me wonder, what is this resistance that Asta supposedly has? Maybe Lucius just didn't freeze him in time, because, once again, Asta does not have the time frozen filter that everyone else does, or everything else does. But at the same time, if he's completely immune, this may be, but is it a post-training thing? Is this only something you can do post-time skip? Because, say, truly due to the nature of that clock, the main basis of, like, the manipulated Lucci battle theory, if such would be the case, then reasonably, it would be natural to assume that Asta, even if he has anti-magic up, can be affected by time magic, because, well, he kept getting rewinded until he beat Lucci. But at the same time, not only does Lucius seemingly appear at least a little unfamiliar with anti-magic, but on top of that, it doesn't even seem like his time magic affects him. Whether that was a conscious choice by Lucius because he wanted to see Asta as he got rid of the fatal flaw, or it's just because Asta is completely immune to it because of a year of training and natural infusion with anti-magic. Obviously, we know he has the anti-magic arm at this point. I don't know. I think it would be, I mean, either way, it's kind of crazy, right? If Asta is not immune to time magic and he just moved in time stop, bada bing, bada boom, inaccessible Asta. Go crazy. Throw him up against Sora. He'd lose, but throw him up against Sora. But then, if he just has innate immunity to magic, boom, throw him up against Sora. Still lose, but throw him up against Sora. No, I'm kidding. But he would either have, like, just passive resistance to magic in base, and both of those are crazy. Admittedly, inaccessible would be a lot crazier, not gonna lie, but still, total magic resistance, even in base. That looks kind of nutty, if you ask me. If you were to ask me, it looks kind of nutty. But we do get to see that Asta is essentially interesting. Wait a minute. So his mark is fully back. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. Okay, that's weird. I just noticed that. So last chapter, and this was not something I noticed. It's something I saw all over online. So I wish I could give credit to the original person who saw this. But notably, if you look at the end of the last chapter, chapter 332, Lucius, some of his marks on like his circle thing are missing. Like the right 3 are just not there, like just straight not present. They're not faded or anything. They're just not there. But then when you cut back to this chapter, they're all there. So I wonder if that was that. What does this mean? Did he steal time from people? Is that how he got it back up? Did he steal time for like Noelle, Mimosa, Lily, the birds, and everything like that? Or was it just like Tabata was rushing and forgot to draw that in? I feel like I'll admit, Tabata kind of crazy with the foreshadowing, so I feel like that does mean something. I feel like it's a purpose that his marks were down last chapter, but now they're up this chapter. Stroking my chin a little bit. I'm kind of intrigued. However, it seems like Lucius, despite being Lucius, having weird dominion over the natural law, it does still kind of find interest and respect the power that flies in the face of natural law. Like, he may not fully understand anti-magic, and this may be his first time, he himself, I guess, encountering it. He still is respectful of it, to the point where he doesn't want to interact with it. And Asta goes on to note that, wait a minute, okay, time stopped for everybody but us. Huh? And because he has this revelation that, wait a minute, that's the Wizard King's magic, but I'm still moving, and the spell's gigantic. What's going on here? And this does make sense, because if you remember, once again, way back, Asta did see this same time freezing spell, but it was only like localized to individual people. The amount of magic this would take is pretty crazy. Like, remember how, but then again, that was chrono anastasis. That was a much larger spell than what this may require, because it's only, I'd say, like about a building, but still kind of nutty that the spell is this huge, and Lucius seems to lose no magic from it. He seems to have done this even casually, and it appears that this isn't natural, which does make sense, because Lucius goes on to explain, it's like, well, I hate to tell you, buddy, but this magic power, it ain't just me. It ain't just me, my boy. Remember that boy Lucci? Remember that thick boy Lucci? That's what, his heart was real thick too. I'll munch that bad boy. And that is another thing that Asta noticed. Like, that key that he finally felt, or he may have felt upon initially interacting with Lucius, was Lucci's key. And it's very interesting. I wonder, once you absorb a heart, because notably, he bonded with Astaroth, he ate Lucci, and he has some sort of deal with Meli. So, he's at least interacted with 3 supreme demons of some way, shape, or form. All in completely different ways. But I wonder, could he have eaten Meji's heart? Nah, I don't know. Could he eat the twins' hearts? Like, what is there to gain from eating the hearts of other supreme demons? Like, does he now have access to gravity magic? Does he really have like control over time and gravity? Because if so, that boy hacks like crazy. But I'm very intrigued, and we get to see that Asta, due to the mixes of keys and the magic he's sensing and probably aesthetic appearances, he's like, okay, you're Julius, but you're not Julius. You're human, but you're not human. And you're ugly, but you're also handsome. So who are you? And what have you done with the Wizard King? And notably, Lucius is like, yo, you really want the answers to all those? Got you. 1, I'm handsome. 2, I'm Lucius O'Gratis. 3, the savior of the world. 4, Julius is dead. And once again, the wording dead. Is he capping? Is he capping? I feel like he ain't cap. Like, Lucius don't seem like the one to cap in a scenario like this. But at the same time, it seems so unreasonable that Julius would have croaked. Like, at least in the way that it's portrayed to us. I feel like Julius, like, once again, that's gotta have some sort of negative effect on Lucius, right? Like, there's no way, unless they're, because I'm kind of considering them as like the left and right brain, right? I guess you could. Can you even function without half your brain, though? Like, Lucius just throws around, oh yeah, Julius is dead. Like, that's not a massive ramification upon him. Like, at least I can completely understand both Patry and William being perfectly fine once they have their own bodies, because those souls were not meant to mix. Like, they simply were not meant to exist together like that. And in fact, they had existed separately previously. But being born with two souls, that's all Lucius and his body have ever known. So the fact that he can just get rid of a soul, once again, specifically a soul, not a personality, not a body part, none of that, a whole soul, a whole other sentient, spiritual, magical creature, being or whatever, kind of crazy. Which makes me think Julius isn't actually gone. I don't know. I know he does the forehead tap thing, and that did get the Monshio out of here, and who knows, it was about to get Asta up out of here. So it may have just gotten Julius up out of here. We saw the forehead tap, but I feel like low-key, Lucius capping. But we see that Asta's like, wait a minute. Hold on. You smoked the Wizard King's pack? Did it, like, send you back in time or something? Was it good? No. He's like, yo. Yeah. The Wizard King, he gone, bro. Because he already did his thing, bro. Man became the Wizard King, lost his one and only fight, and called it a day. And now, we're all good. We're gonna do my plan now. For the sake of world peace, a peace without sadness or hatred, or discrimination. This reminds me so much of Arthur. Why does, that's the other thing. There, is that 3 series? That is 3 series. Kingdom Hearts. 4 series. Why? Kingdom Hearts, Bleach. Wait a second. Oh. Naruto, Bleach, Kingdom Hearts, Magi, and what else? What was the 5th one? My mind. Okay, I only remember the 5th. The whole idea of this world peace. 7 Deadly Sins, obviously. What the heck? What's with all these people trying to reform the world for no peace, no war, no discrimination by violently slaughtering everybody? Like, it's such a. It is, and then to think, and now that I think about it, it's always the final villain's plot. And this is the final arc, and Lucius likely is our final big bad, unless there's some plot twist with Rafi. So, I'm just like, so many final villains in all these different series have the exact same thing. True peace, a peace without sadness or hatred, war or discrimination. Gotta slaughter everybody. I don't know, that's crazy. I don't know. I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's the ultimate stakes, so a lot of series are going to copy that. Can't wait for One Piece to get to the end, and Imu's final plan will be annihilating all of humanity and making them better. But we'll see. And we do get to see that Lucius, he's a little off the sauce right now. We'll repair all humans. My siblings and I will destroy them, then use our magic to recreate them. We'll make them into the fortunate people who are equal in every respect. Then, to prevent any further mistakes, I will rule over everything as the final Wizard King. And, buddy, Paleo. I think, there are a couple issues. One, all your siblings dead. Push me to the edge. Like all of them are gone. Unless you got the bodies? You got the cadavers? Like, what you gonna do? How you gonna bring them back? 2, what's your magic? Is your base magic just soul magic? Is that how you're able to bada bing, bada boom, get Lucius about the room? Well, no, you are Lucius. Get Julius about the room? Is it soul magic? Because we have blood, body, and skeleton. Would it be mind? I don't know. I mean, ironically, what if he just has idle transfiguration, bro? What if he just read JJK and was like, hey, yo, Mahito, I like that skill, bro. Come. Because I guess that would be the only thing that makes sense, right? Because that would explain how Julius could, like, shapeshift into different people. But that's only if you go, like, strictly with the Mahito thing and you're like, oh, yeah, the soul shapes the body and the body is reliant on the soul. So, like, he can manipulate his body into looking to different things. Because, like, Dante already has body magic. So why would Lucius have body magic? I mean, mind magic? Maybe? But he messed with souls, so I'm assuming it's got to be some sort of soul magic. But interesting how he wants to make them all equal. Like, I wonder if they're just going to be, like, copies of each other, or if they're going to be the same, just with, like, equal levels of magic power. Like, that's it. Like, everyone's flatline. Like, there's no one who can ever challenge him because they're all made weaker than him. Interesting. But we do get to see that when Asta's like, hold up, wait a minute, ooh, what are you talking about? Lucius like, don't worry about it. chill, homie. Trust me, I got this. I already saw everything. I have the script. I am Tabata. But you see, I'm Tabata without the final A, because there's just one thing that holds me back from my beautiful, perfect master plan that I foresaw everywhere. Yeah, that's you, my boy. By rights, no living thing should ever be born without magic. You are the world's flaw. For the sake of a just future, flaws must be eliminated. Interesting. So, Asta being born without magic is a much more... I mean, to be fair, it's always been narratively relevant. It's always been a weird thing. Like, even children have magic in this world, and Asta is now a full-grown adult, still with zero magic, only this quote-unquote anti-magic. But I wonder, like, if you're going to destroy all of humanity anyway, why not just destroy Asta and rebuild him with magic? Like, you don't have to give him much. Give him the same you're going to give everyone else. I don't know. I mean, I get it how he could get in the way, because one, he seems to evade all predictions, likely due to his once again, the main reason he may be immune to all of both Julius and Lucius's time spells is because he's related to Rothi in some way. You know, Rothi, Asta. We don't know who Asta's father is. He manifests extra horns when he fully goes in to DU, and you know, Lieb only has 2, so where would the other 2 come from if not from him? So it's entirely possible that Rothi, you know, found that gorgeous magic dreaming human woman and was like, man, I gotta get in your and then bada bing bada boom, Asta happened, and with Asta happening, he's like the flaw, because it's very... I need the 1,000-Year Blood War to have come out in total, and everyone have watched it yesterday. Because I'm caught up on the manga Bleach. Why aren't you caught? No, I'm kidding. I'm caught up on the manga Bleach. Like, I read the whole thing like a few months ago, so I can't get mad at anybody. But this is very reminiscent. If that is the case, that due to the way his magic, his time magic works, due to his contract with Rothi, if Asta's related to Rothi in like any sort of biological sense, he can't perceive anything that relates to his own child, because it's like his child has sort of temporal immunity. It would be it would be something I've seen before, but it would be an interesting twist on it. I would like that, and it would explain why Asta exists and why he's so strange. But we do get to see that Asta has a panel processing, and he's like, okay, yeah, oh yeah, it's all coming together now. Yeah, no, who the heck are you calling a flaw? And once again, I mean, Asta didn't have too deep of a connection with Julius, but I love how the thing he focuses on is like, no, not too deep of a connection with Julius, but with all of humanity. But I love the thing that he focuses on. It's like, hey, I'm not a flaw. What the heck? Don't be mean. He's like, I can't help the way I was born. But he does go on to say, yo, you just stole the Wizard King's body. You're going to destroy all humans? Bet. The Wizard King put his life on the line to save everybody from someone who he should have fodderized if he's as strong as half the fandom thinks he is. But the Wizard King that I looked up to would never do something like this. He would never call me a flaw. He would never be this handsome. And there's no way he would die to you, no matter how handsome you are, that easily. So, you gotta run my fade. And I love how Lucius just smiles. Like, there's no real fear in him. Like, sure, he backed away before when Asta immediately transformed, but he has this calm, beautiful smile on his face. And he just says one thing. I'm stronger than Julius, you know. And once again, at least by scaling and feats, that ain't high praise, bro. Like, a lot of people are stronger than Julius. But in this context, obviously, I see what it means. And we do get to see that Asta, he takes a grip of the shirt, and he's like, yo, if that's facts, if you ain't capping right now, I got you, bro. And then what I love here, I love how the time stop spear is just such a beautiful orb. It's a perfect spear. And then just the anti-magic splotches all over it, tearing it apart, showing how savage and vile it is, and why it must be eliminated. I'm sorry. But it does all that, and everyone gets freed. The birds and Sister Lily and everyone gets to see. But Asta, his declaration here, in the face of really unbelievable odds, is that, yo, in that case, right here, right now, I'll surpass the Wizard King. And Asta's gonna have to lose this fight, or Julius / Lucius is just gonna have to run, or something like that. Like, the arc can't end right here, right now, right? We aren't getting a plot twist this early. Tabata, you ain't cooking this. Like, the fire is on high. I know that, but really? We're going this quickly? Like, he's already leaping. Like, this is true DU, I'm pretty sure. And obviously he's had a year to train it, so it makes sense why he's in it. But we're really getting the fight between our MC and the big bad this quickly? Golly gee willikers. Once again, though, I love how, despite his unfamiliarity and Asta literally dual wielding 2 anti-magic blades, Lucius looks straight at him and is like, fool, bakado. And he's just smiling at him. Overall, I really, really like this chapter. I think it does a lot to establish a lot of questions that this arc hopefully we'll go on to answer. It brings up a lot of different scenarios and possible ways for Tabata to take the arc, take certain characters. I love the questions. That's the thing. If this chapter does one thing extremely well, it's raise questions that I am happy to ask. Like, what's up with Julius? Is he really gone for good, or is he somewhere inside him? What does this whole 2 souls thing mean? What plans does Lucius have with his siblings if they're supposedly all dead? What is the reasoning that Lucius has his predestination? What makes Lucius stronger than Julius? What are all these different things that come into play with Asta and his relationship to Julius's predestination? Is there any relationship between Rathi and Asta? Who knows? Like, all the questions here, whew, they're spicy. And obviously, I just love Lucius so far. I think he's such an interesting twist in comparison to all the villains we've had in Black Clover up to this point. He's not bombastic, he's not loud, he's not crazy, but he's calm, confident, and ominous. And I think that works for our final villain, especially considering where he comes from and what he stands for as this same body and soul thingamajig of the Wizard King. I like it a lot. And I'm very excited to see what happens next chapter. However, those are my thoughts. Please tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month. I get things like early videos, exclusive content, and more. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.